In this video, I'm going to cover common Adobe Premiere shortcut keys, starting with the Q key, ripple trim previous, the W key, ripple trim next, Control C copy, Control V paste, Control Alt V paste attributes, Control S save, Control Z undo, Control Shift Z redo, the I key mark in, the O key mark out, Control Shift X key clear in out, Control Shift D key default transition, the S key snaps on and off, / key zoom to sequence, F key match frame, Control Alt K key keyboard shortcuts, and the M key add marker. Now the Q key ripple trim previous and the W key ripple trim next. Q cuts off the head of a clip and W cuts off the tail of a clip. Now what I used to do is just use the C key. Let's say for instance I wanted to cut in right here. This is where I wanted my clip to start. I would hit the C key, create the razor, I'd hit the V key, I'd select that clip, then I'd hit Shift Delete, which is ripple delete, and it would take the clip and cut it and do the ripple edit. Now, instead of doing that, what we could do, hit Control Z a couple of times, what we can do now is we find the edit spot where I want to cut it in right here, then I hit the Q key and it does it all in one spot. Now, the corresponding key to that comes and cuts off the tail of the clip. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to cut right here where it hooks up, and I want to cut off this tail. That's where I want it to end. So if I want to cut off between the playhead and the tail of the clip right here, I would hit the W key, and it does the same thing. So I've used the Q key to cut off the head of the clip and the W key to cut off the tail of the clip, all in one movement instead of using the razor tool and then ripple delete. Again, that's the Q key, ripple trim previous, and the W key, ripple trim next. Now, Control C copy and Control V paste are used commonly across many programs, including Adobe Premiere. And one additional to that, use Control Alt V, which is paste attribute, something I use a lot. So I'll just go over those three things right here. So let's say I have this in my source monitor. I want to bring that into my program monitor here. I'll hit the comma. It will insert that. And the reason it inserted it like that is because I had the V1 track targeted to the V2, which is no problem. I can just drag that back down in here. So let's say, for instance, I want to create a copy of just this video track and lay it on top. And I'll show you why I'm going to do that in a second. So I'll bring this back to the beginning of that clip. And I have it right now targeted V1 to V2. So I can hit copy here. So I hit Alt just to select just the video track. And then I will hit Control C to copy it, and then I will, because I have V1 and track to V2, when I hit Control V, it'll pop it into the V2 track. So now I have a copy of that track on top of each other. Now, another way to hit Control Z, bring that back. Another way to do that is to just grab this track right here, hit Alt, grab that track, and when you hit the Alt key and drag it up, it creates a copy like that too. So now I've got a copy of this track right here. So what I have is the previous track right here. I have this set up so it's taking the second copy and it's sticking my keystrokes up here in the top right-hand corner, which is what I want. But instead of going ahead and dragging that and doing that for each track, what I do is I just copy the attributes. So you'll just see what it looks like right here. The keystrokes are up in this left-hand corner. And what I'm going to go over here is I'm going to hit Control C over here, Control C. And then I will come over here and hit this track right here, and I'll hit Control Alt V, and the paste attributes panel will come up, and it has motion and crop, which is what I had to do to put that keystrokes in the top corner. I'll hit OK. And so now you'll see when you come over here, those attributes have been copied over there. So now I have my keystrokes up here in the top right-hand corner, which is where I want them. Now, another way I could do it, I could do that also with the bottom one. I actually already have this cropped down here, and I want to copy this crop from the original video over to here. So I'll do the same. I'll hit Control C right here, and then I'll come over here and I'll hit Control Alt V, sorry. Paste attributes. So I'm going to copy over the motion and the crop, but I've also done a denoise to the audio track there, and I also want to apply that attribute there. So if I didn't want the denoise, I could just deselect it here. But this is just a quick way if attributes you've created on one track and you want to copy them over to other tracks, it's just Control-Alt-V and it does it. So now you see I've got my crop here. I got the same crop that I had on this track right over here, and it even has the motion graphics. So you know, it moves in, copied that, the motion, and it cropped it the way I want, both on the original video track and then this overlay track, which is cropped down to be just this top piece right here, which is what I did my paste attributes. So that is Control-C copy, Control-V paste, and then Control-Alt-V paste attributes. Now, when working on your project, you may have automatic save set up. I have mine set up for every 5 minutes. But a lot of times you may want to have done something really important. You want to make sure that it doesn't get messed up because, you know, Premiere does crash all the time. You might want to use the Control-S, and Control-S does a quick save. So if you get to a point where you've just worked on something really hard, you want to make sure that you don't lose it. And, you know, you might have just had an autosave and you want to make sure it doesn't get lost. Just hit Control-S and it does a save for you. So I use that quite often, Control-S to save. Now, a really common keystroke that I use all the time is Control-Z, which is undo, and then Shift Control-Z, which is redo. So let's say, for instance, I have my razor tool here, I hit my C tool, and I create a bunch of cuts in here. And I said, oh, I don't want to do any of those. So I just hit Control-Z, and it removes them one at a time. But let's say, for instance, oh, I want to go back and redo that last one. So I hit Control-Shift-C, and it brings back that last one, or the next to last one. So basically that's it. Control-Z or Shift Control-Z is undo and redo. A really common keystroke that I use all the time is Control-Z. I do something and I screw it up and I just hit Control-Z the number of times I need it. And it's just one of those keys I use all the time. Now, two strokes you use quite often are the I and the O key, which is the mark in and mark out. So in the source monitor, you know, you go along, you find where you want to start, and you hit the I, and you can scroll down to where you want to play to, and then you hit the O, and that's your in and out. And if I wanted that clip to go over here, and I want it to go on track 4, then I would hit my overwrite, and I would pop it in there, and it would do that. So it's my in and out. To clear that, you hit Control-Shift-X, and it clears your in and out. So those are 3 things you're going to have to do a lot of, both in your source monitor, and sometimes you will be doing in and outs in your program monitor. And then once you do that, you know, you can move your in and outs by dragging them. But a lot of times you have to clear them at the end, so that Control-Shift-X, and it clears your in and out. Okay, for default transitions, you can do Shift-D, which it does your default transition. Let's say, for instance, I want to select all these audio tracks, which is just a music track. And I wanted to select my default transition for all these. I would just hit Shift-D, and it would add to the constant power dissolve, or constant power transition, I'm sorry, on all these audio tracks, in between all these audio tracks. And the same thing you could do for your video tracks. If I wanted to do all these video tracks right here, and I wanted to do a default video transition there, I could hit Shift-D, and it adds the cross dissolve on all of those. I'm going to Control-Z and back those up again. So that's just an easy way to hit your default transition in there. And let me just bring over my effects panel here. Okay, so in the effects, you have, let me just cross these up. You have audio transitions and video transitions. So in audio transitions, you've got all these. I have mine set up to constant power, but if you wanted to change it to something else, you can just right-click it and hit Set as Default Transition. So the next time I hit Shift-D, it'll do constant gain. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hit right-click and gone back to constant power audio transition. Okay, and the same thing for video transitions. We got, I have it in dissolve right now, but let's say, for instance, I wanted to do dip to black instead. Right-click, set as default transition. So now if I did Shift-D, it would do the dip to black transition. So I'm going to check that back because I don't really want that. Cross dissolve, and we will bring our effect back over to my other monitor. And that's it. So that is Shift D for default transition. Now the S keystroke turns on and off your snaps over here. You see it says snap in the timeline. That's your little magnet tool. What snaps is basically does it. So if you're trying to bring a graphic over or something, and you want to snap to points in your timeline, you can see it just magnetically goes over to the playhead there. It can also be the same thing. You want it to snap to the end of an edit, so it snaps in place. If I hit the S key, it turns off the snaps. And so now when I bring this clip over to the playhead, it won't snap to the playhead. It'll allow it to be like one frame away from the playhead. It won't snap to it. And the same thing goes with an edit point. You could bring it within like one frame of the edit point and it will not snap to it. It will just drag it to exactly where you want it. I pretty much have snaps on all the time, but the S key helps you turn on and off the snaps very quickly. Now the / key is a very simple, it's a zoom to sequence. So if you have your sequence zoomed all the way up like this and you can't see your whole sequence and you quickly want to see the whole sequence on your screen, you just hit the / key and it brings the whole sequence into view so you can see the whole sequence. You can always go back by just hitting the / again. Just keep this in mind. This is the / key, not the / key. Okay, so backslash, that's backslash. And this is, let's hit Control Z, and this is the / key right there. So you just tab back and forth in the / key. It zoom to sequence is very simple, but it's nice to be able to get your whole sequence in view very quickly. Again, that's the zoom to sequence / key. Okay, so the F key, which is the match frame key, something you use all the time. Let's say over here in the source monitor, I have this clip right here, but I want to go back to the actual source clip and either use it somewhere else, or I want to adjust the frame right here. I just hit the F key, and that brings that what I had in the program monitor, it brings it up that clip into the source panel, and it basically shows here's the in and out point that I'm currently using over here in my timeline, but I may want to go somewhere else here in the timeline, create a new in out over here, a new in, a new out, create a new in out, and I might want to take that clip and drag it somewhere else into the project and bring it in like that, and I can bring it in just like that. So that's a quick way to be able to scroll through, find a clip that you want to find, and then be able to just hit F. Brings that clip into your source monitor, and then you can manipulate or do whatever you want to do with it. So it's just a quick way to be able to go back to that source clip wherever it is in your timeline, hit F, and it brings it in there. So that's F match frame. Okay, as I'm learning my shortcut keys and I'm constantly referring back, sometimes to remind myself what they are, I use the Control Alt K, and that brings up your keyboard preferences, and it's just easy to be able to go back and forth to your keyboard shortcuts and just remind yourself where they are, or to make adjustments to the hotkeys that you like to use. So that's just Control Alt K, brings up your keyboard shortcuts. Okay, the M key is the marker key, and occasionally you may want to either make a marker on a clip or a marker on your timeline in the sequence. So for instance, let's say I want to make a marker on this clip right here, right where I'm pointing to Alice right here. Let's say I want to put a marker on this clip right here. While I'm in the timeline panel right here, if I hit M, it'll add a marker on that clip right there. But let's say, for instance, I wanted to add the marker instead of on the clip, I wanted to add it in the sequence here in the timeline. I would select the program monitor and move to where I wanted to add the marker, and then with this activated, with this activated up here, get this back down here. With this activated here, I'm at here, and I hit the program monitor and I hit marker there. So now it adds the marker on the timeline. You can see it's marked in here. The other way to do it is just use your marker in here, get it to where you want, and then you hit M, and it adds another marker right there. And you can change the colors and do all the kind of crazy stuff you want to do with markers, and you can move markers. But the M key is what makes the marker. You just got to make sure which window you have selected, whether you want to make a clip marker or if you want to make a sequence marker, and then that brings up the marker window right there. So that is M for marker. Well, thanks for watching this video on my Adobe Premiere shortcut keys. Now, the reason I make these Adobe Premiere videos, one is it helps me learn some of the techniques that I'm talking about in the video. And it also lets me go back and look at these YouTube videos to remember some of these simple editing techniques that can really make the editing process go much faster. If you found this video valuable, please give it a thumbs up or a like, and leave a comment if you thought you really liked something. If you didn't like something, please leave a comment about that too. I'm really trying to learn my best about making this type of video. If you want to see more, please consider checking out this playlist over here in the corner, and also think about subscribing on the link down here below if you want to see more videos like this.